Retail slowdown eases pressure on interest rates. Royal tour crowned a success as Queen prepares to depart. And Australia's fast men again humble the Kiwis.
From National 9 News, this is Nightline with Jim Whaley.
Good evening. Australia's enthusiasm for spending may be fading a little, but the government's money men are convinced that the economy is powering on. The good news is that the drop in retail sales has eased the pressure for an early rise in interest rates. But as Laurie Wilson reports, that may just be delaying the inevitable.
Retail sales fell for the third consecutive month, suggesting the spending boom by consumers is over. But while the heat may be going out of the domestic economy, export sales are on the rise again.
The Australian economy is still growing and growing strongly, but the composition of growth is changing. It's changing from consumer demand to production and exports, and that's actually a good thing.
It certainly does ease the pressure on interest rates, although economists believe another rate rise is still inevitable.
It's been good news week for Australia. We're getting more growth out of exports, less growth out of shoppers. That means interest rates will probably still have to go up, but not quite as much as it was looking.
The Reserve Bank was expected to increase rates by 0.5% next week. Now, some market analysts believe it could opt for just 0.25% rise, and possibly not until May. Meantime, the government has welcomed the latest report card on Telstra's performance, which shows there's been a steady improvement in its service levels over the past 12 months.
Yes, I think it is encouraging. This is a report by an independent regulator, and I think the takeout is that Telstra has done well. It can do better.
The one black mark, a deterioration in fault repair times in rural areas in the last quarter. Telstra says that was linked in part to the added demands of servicing the peacekeeping force in East Timor.
My message to Telstra today is that they're certainly improving, but they've got to do more. It's work in progress, but they're still not there yet.
Laurie Wilson reporting for Nightline.
Canberra isn't backing away from its decision to review Australia's role in United Nations committees after criticism of the treatment of Aborigines. While the government has found itself under attack from political opponents and human rights groups, Foreign Minister Alexander Downer is convinced he has the support of the wider community.
Defiant and confident of public support, Alexander Downer today again slammed the UN Race Discrimination Committee that has condemned Australia's recent racial record.
We're all Australians. We know that this isn't a country where there are serious breaches of human rights.
Immigration Minister Philip Ruddock took Australia's position to the committee last week in Geneva. The result, a rebuff. The committee blasting Australia over mandatory sentencing, having recently also condemned our approach to native title. The government will now review our participation in the UN committee system, to the fury of human rights groups.
The committee did its job, and now the government has turned around, and rather than saying we are in breach, they're saying let's blame the referee.
The moment an adverse report comes out, the government spits the dummy. And really, this is part of what has become a very childish, very self-centred government.
The head of the UN's treaties section was today taking a diplomatic line, saying a UN member nation like Australia is quite within its rights to complain about a committee's findings. However, he also says we have an obligation to take those findings seriously. But Mr Beasley found, on Talkback Radio at least, that popular opinion may well be running with Mr Downer.
I believe that the politicians signed these agreements with the United Nations, is that correct?
Yes, but
Well, let me just say to you there that you do it without consultation with the general public.
Leaving the government in an enviable position, criticised by the UN, yet still gaining political mileage over Labor.
They're happy to gang up with a politicised United Nations committee, which includes Cuba and Pakistan and China.
Hugh Remington for Nightline.
Police are refusing to patrol parts of Sydney's southwest following the bashing of an officer by a gang. The policeman eventually shot one of the attackers. Colleagues were delayed in coming to his aid because of problems with radio communications.
The circumstances of the gang bashing of Senior Constable Fred Kinch greatly concerns the Police Association. The lone highway patrol officer was attacked after breath testing a driver. He finally shot a man in the stomach after using capsicum spray to try and fend him off. 3 other men and 2 women were questioned. Constable Kinch radioed for help during the attack, but his pleas were indecipherable, the radio operator taking 3 precious minutes to determine where he was.
There's a problem that potentially could have been this officer's life.
The incident is being investigated, with solo policing likely to be reviewed. In Melbourne, a New South Wales truck driver has been jailed for life for murdering his son, an apparent act of revenge after splitting with the child's mother. Dean Williamson drove 5-year-old Braddon to a Gippsland motel and killed the boy by smothering him with a pillow. Braddon's family members responded yes when the judge announced the life sentence.
No one should have a child taken from them because of one person's complete and utter selfishness.
Victorian police have seized a large haul of illegal guns and drugs in raids on 4 properties in Melbourne and Geelong. Detectives confiscated more than 30 semi-automatic rifles